What if I told you we did something that many thought was impossible? Not just with words, but with actions. We turned the unthinkable into reality. The world didn't see it coming, but now it's here, and it's changing everything. I'm about to show you how one nation decided it was time to take control and build its own future. Curious? Keep watching, because this is just the beginning.
They said Africa couldn't do it. They said a small, landlocked nation, scarred by decades of dependency, couldn't break free. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré proved them wrong in a way no one expected. In a mere 22 minutes, he shattered the narrative. He didn't whisper, he didn't warn. He made a declaration, a bold, defiant move to end digital colonization forever. He flipped the switch on Europe's control and illuminated the path to self-sovereignty for 22 million people. No IMF loans. No Silicon Valley backdoors. No foreign handouts. Just satellites built in Kédougou, cables dug by Burkinabe hands, and a firewall coded in Ouagadougou, all crafted in the heart of Africa, by Africans, for Africa. It wasn't a plan, it wasn't a proposal. It was a revolution. And it wasn't just a story, it was a rupture. For years, Africa had been told it couldn't, that it would always be left behind. But on that dry August morning in Ouagadougou, everything changed. That was the moment when the impossible became possible. In just 22 minutes, Captain Ibrahim Traoré made an announcement that would echo across Africa. Faso Telecom, Africa's first sovereign telecom empire, was no longer a dream, a distant promise, or a road map. It was alive. It was working. The numbers came fast, one after another, each more shocking than the last. 4,200 kilometers of fiber optic cable stretched across mountains and deserts, through rugged terrain, cutting through the very soul of the nation. 65 ground-based satellite stations built not in foreign factories but in Burkina Faso's own borders. And the result? 92% national coverage, from the bustling streets of Pama to the distant edges of Gorom. Captain Traoré didn't stop there. He revealed the truth behind the $1.2 billion investment that made it all possible. No foreign loans, no European credit lines, just Burkina Faso's own resources redirected, repurposed, and reinvested. Wealth from gold mining, once extracted and sent abroad, was seized and reinvested back into the country. Military budgets, previously used to host foreign troops, were repurposed for this historic venture. Burkina Faso didn't just build a telecom network. It built a nation's future. And the people who built it? A team of 647 Burkinabe engineers, 83% of them under 35, trained in local universities, working tirelessly to create something the world said was impossible. They didn't have years of experience with global telecom infrastructure. What they had was urgency, purpose, and the will to defy the world's expectations. The project was entirely homegrown, planned from the ground up by Burkinabe minds, designed specifically for the challenges of the land. Geographic data from local satellites guided the routing logic, and towers were designed to withstand the intense heat of the Sahara, the dust storms, and the unpredictable rains. And then came the declaration that would shake the world. Our voice no longer leaves this continent before it reaches our neighbor. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His words carried more weight than any economic report ever could. Burkina Faso was no longer dependent on foreign infrastructure. The cables that once answered to Paris now answered to Ouagadougou. The days of asking for permission were over. In just 14 months, Captain Ibrahim Traoré and his team built the infrastructure to rival the digital powerhouses of the world. 211 relay towers made from local steel, 65 satellite uplinks calibrated with locally written software, and mobile network platforms coded in the languages of Burkina Faso. This wasn't just about technology. This was about sovereignty, about reclaiming control of Africa's digital future. Faso Telecom didn't just connect people. It liberated them. But what if we've only just begun? What happens when nations like Burkina Faso can build their own networks without asking for permission? What if Africa doesn't need to wait for others to create its future? For too long, African states were told to focus on the basics: water, roads, food. But what happens when the basics are redefined to include bandwidth, data sovereignty, and encryption? In Burkina Faso, they didn't just improve the basics, they redefined them. They took the very foundation of what it means to be connected and flipped the narrative on its head. For the first time, the country connected 92% of its population to high-speed internet, something previously thought impossible for a landlocked, economically constrained nation. Rural areas, long abandoned by traditional telecom providers, now had access to real-time data, digital healthcare, and agriculture reports, bringing the future directly to their doorstep. The impact was immediate and profound. 2.1 million Burkinabe citizens now had access to medical portals. Telemedicine became a reality where once only silence and isolation prevailed. 130,000 farmers received crop forecasts delivered straight to their phones, empowering them to make data-driven decisions that would transform their livelihoods. These aren't just numbers, they're lifelines. They represent a future once considered impossible, and now it's here. But here's the most powerful part. The entire system was built without relying on foreign cloud servers, with no outsourcing to foreign nations. Every single piece of data, every file, every message, and every interaction stays within Burkina Faso's borders. It's Burkinabe data, secure, controlled, and owned by the people it serves. There's no need for foreign powers to control it, no dependency on the West. This is not just about engineering. This is about liberation. It's about ownership, the kind of ownership that empowers a nation to control its destiny. It's about reclaiming what was always theirs, the tools, the systems, and the infrastructure to build a future free from the shackles of dependency. The ripple effect of this revolution spread far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. The world took notice. When Faso Telecom announced its new direction, the Paris Stock Exchange experienced a sharp decline in shares of Tele-SA, the French telecom giant that had controlled Burkina Faso's telecom infrastructure for 27 years. The power of Burkina Faso's sovereignty was undeniable, and it posed a direct challenge to the old order, the world's established telecom hierarchy. As the dust settled, a crucial question emerged. Why is it a threat when Africa controls its own data? This is the core question that is now reverberating across the global digital landscape. Why does it become dangerous when an African nation chooses to take ownership of its technological infrastructure? What happens when African countries stop asking for permission to innovate and instead create their own solutions? Burkina Faso's achievement is not just a telecom revolution, it's a power shift. The country has moved from digital dependency to digital sovereignty, and that shift is not just isolated to Burkina Faso. Across the African continent, nations are starting to look at Faso Telecom's success and ask themselves, why can't we do the same? Countries like Malawi, Sierra Leone, and Ghana are already studying the Burkina Faso model, seeing it as a viable path forward. The message is clear. Africa doesn't need permission to build, create, or innovate. It has the capability, and the world is just beginning to realize that. What happens when technology is not an import, but a ritual, a practice embedded within the culture, designed by the people who understand the land, the people, and the problems? The truth is, Africa is no longer catching up to the world. It's leading the charge. The continent is not merely trying to build networks. It's building its own future, one where the people are empowered to define their own destiny. If you believe that Africa should control its own destiny, then this message is for you. If you believe that the future of Africa is one where every country can stand on its own, independent and sovereign, then drop your city in the comments and help us spread this message to every corner of the globe. Let's amplify this movement, because Africa is not just catching up to the world, it is creating its own future. A future where data flows freely, where infrastructure is built by the people, for the people, and where Africa's voice is no longer determined by others. Together, we can make this message louder. We can raise the signal higher. Share this video with your friends, family, and communities. Let's stand together in support of this new Africa, one that controls its own future, and one that doesn't ask for permission to thrive. Because the world isn't ready for an Africa that has already risen. But Africa is ready to make its mark, and this is just the beginning.